Hi, Sarah Belanger here from Anchor Journals and sincerelyanchor.com, and I wanted to talk to you today about something very important. In fact, it's the most important thing about me. And, I think being a mom is very important. I think being a wife is very important. I think my career is pretty important, and my musicality is very important. And I believe the teaching is very important, and writing, and all these other parts and of me and things that I do that at least I think are pretty important. But strip all of that away, and what do you have left? The very most important thing about me is my faith. And I'll be honest, that doesn't mean that I always make it the most important, but at the end of the day, it is the thing that trumps everything else. And that's my faith. And you've heard me talk about my faith. Maybe you've read some of it on sincerelyanchor.com. But at the end of the day, I want to talk to you today about my testimony. Now, testimony is one of those churchy words that you might hear if you've been in a church for quite some time, but you might not necessarily know exactly what that means. And it's just a chance for me to share who I am in my faith and to be a witness. That's another one of those words that you might hear in a church. Okay, Sarah, you went from one and you defined it with another one. What does that churchy word mean when we're talking about witnessing to someone or being a witness? Well, you might actually already know the answer to that question, especially if you like any, kind of legal dramas or watch, court TV or anything like that. Just like a witness on a stand gives an account of what they saw or what they know, that's what I want to share with you today. I want to be a witness to what I believe. And when I'm talking about that with my faith, it's kind of just sharing my story of what I believe and know to be true, and my perspective of it and what I've experienced. So right now, I would just want to share my testimony or my witness with you today. And I'm glad to have you join me and listen as I share this. Now, I could bring this all the way back and this could turn into something really long, but I'll spare you all the details today and just start really quickly at the beginning, where I was actually born into a family where my parents were young Christians. They had been raised understanding church and, faith in general, but they became new Christians right before I was born. So a lot of their growing up in the church and their faith and what they believe was done right around the same time that, just a couple years difference of me growing up in the faith and figuring out what I believe. So a lot of what they went through was discovering what's okay, what's not okay. Is this acceptable? Is this what Christians do? And they had to discover that it takes a little bit more than trying to act like other people at the church or believing in the same thing as other people in the church. And when I say believing, I'm talking about more of those extra things that, here's another churchy word, that discipleship can bring into play later on. But they fell in love with God and wanted to know God and started attending a Bible-believing church. And so it was my parents, my two older brothers, and myself. So we started attending a church from some of my earliest memories are being in church and attending different services. If the door to the church was open, that's where we were. Sundays, we were there from the morning Sunday school. We were there for a church service. For me, it included something called children's church, where we had some more, songs geared toward kids and different Bible stories and, different illustrations that were for our age level. And then Sunday nights, there was a church service as well. Now, Sunday nights, they didn't have kind of a children's church kiddie program. So a lot of times that meant sitting in the same row with my parents and quite often coloring in my seat. I don't remember a lot from being very young, of course, But I do remember sitting in church with my parents and hearing something that the pastor was talking about just kind of catch my attention. And it's something that you probably have wondered about too. But me, as a very young child, heard the words heaven, heard the words hell, knowing hell was a bad place and heaven was a good place. And all I knew was, I want to go to heaven. And so in that moment, there was an opportunity for me to say a prayer, to act on things that I had been hearing in church. And that was knowing that God loves me, that God loves me so much that he had his son Jesus come from heaven down to earth. He died on a cross, but he didn't stay dead. And because of that, even though I have done bad things, or what we call sin, that meant if I believe in him and what he did because of his dying on the cross and resurrection, that meant that I could then go to heaven because of believing in him. I might not have used those same words as a 4 or 5 year old, but it was that idea that, okay, I want to go to heaven and I believe that Jesus is real and I can't get to heaven on my own. I need Jesus. So yeah, I'm going to pray the prayer that the pastor says. And that's exactly what I did. It was one of those things that I didn't even know to make a big deal about. It was just, okay, yeah, that's what I want. I'm going to pray it too. So prayed that little prayer and all right, I'm a believer, you know. As time went on, not only did we go to church frequently, I also was able to go to a private Christian school where I had Bible classes, kindergarten through 12th grade. And it's something that I had to learn as time went on, that a lot of what I would call my faith was actually my parents' faith. So just like my parents had to learn kind of what you do when you become a believer, I, as a child growing up, had to learn, oh, this is something that's very personal for me. It's not just what my parents believe anymore. Why do I go to church? It's always been because my parents said, okay, get in the car, and we went to church. But there comes a point in time where everyone needs to think about it for themselves, and that started becoming a reality for me. Now, as time went on, I've learned how to make people happy. People loved, when I had the right churchy answers, when there was questions at church or even in school, and I would say the right thing or do the right thing. And I remember very, very distinctly that somebody who I went to school with said, oh, Sarah, you're such a goody-goody. And all of a sudden it hit me, wait, whoa, that's a bad thing? That isn't what I'm supposed to do? And it became about making other people like me and pleasing other people. If going so far close to a line of what was acceptable made people happy, then I thought, oh, okay, I can do that. I can get away with this. I didn't necessarily do anything, evil, but I also was going down a path that wasn't pleasing to God. That I didn't have the intention and motivation to do what was right, to show love to God. And that's something I believe that we all come to a point, whether we're consciously thinking about it or subconsciously, that we're making these decisions. Every decision that we make can either bring us closer to God or it can bring us farther from God. There's a Bible verse where he says, draw near to God and he will draw near to you. That doesn't mean that he's like waiting in a distance and it's like, okay, when are you going to come to me? It's literally him wanting a relationship with us, and that's not what I was doing. I was doing the right thing on Sundays, and maybe other days in between. It was about appearing to be this person because that's what other people wanted of me. Whether it was appearing to be churchy, whether it was appearing to be, walking this edgy line, whatever it may be. And it got to a point where I was challenged, hey, what are you doing with your life? You say you're a Christian, but are you living it? The word Christian means little Christ, and I was farthest from that. I wasn't trying to live like Christ. I wasn't trying to love Christ. I was just trying to do what felt good and looked good. So at a pivotal time, it just came to the conclusion that, you know what, this isn't my life. This isn't what I want for me. And if I say I'm a believer, I need to act it. I want to be true to my word. I want to have integrity. And in those moments, I wasn't having it. I broke down, had a really great friend who was supporting me, had a really great mentor and teacher at my school who was supporting me and prayed with me, and made the choice. And since then, I would love to say that everything's been smooth sailing. Everything's come easy to me. But no, that's not how it works. In fact, there is a Bible verse that says, in this world you will have troubles. It doesn't say that, you might, or, oh, you probably won't. It says you will. And guess what I have? Time has gone on, and we've had so many ups and downs, twists and turns, things that I would not even wish on anybody else. Going from having my daughter die in my arms, being there as my dad passed away, financial issues, health issues, being a young person and being told you might have cancer. Thank God it didn't, but that's a very real reality for many people. There is always going to be something that comes up, and it isn't easy. And being a Christian doesn't make it easy. But before I make you go running for the hills, the best part about it is that you're not alone. As a believer, I know that God is with me, and I have experienced God with me. I will say that again to emphasize, I have experienced God with me. As my daughter passed away, it wasn't easy by any means. It wasn't easy being rushed from watching her take her last breath to me being rushed into surgery myself and not even knowing if I was going to see my husband again myself. And that's something not everybody even knows happened. It was not easy watching my dad pass away, my hero, my rock, my go-to. But the moment that he did, God was there reminding me that he will never leave me nor forsake me. That he, too, is my Father, and he is always with me. He has reminded me that his word is living and true. And there are times when I do not know the answer of what is coming up next. And he has given me the exact verse that I needed for strength. The exact reminder that I don't know, I don't have to know the answers because he already does, and he already knows what's coming next, and he will supply all my needs. He has made things happen that the world would call a coincidence, but there are no coincidences with God. And my testimony, my witness is that the more that I draw close to God, the more I do know that he is there. Because even when things seem impossible, he has made a way for them to be possible. the moment my dad took his last breath. The song that came on the radio was "It Is Well With My Soul." And that has been the reminder and prayer in so many different situations that we have been in, that it could be very easy for me to stress about, and too often I do anyway. But too often, even when I am not acting on faith, he is still faithful to me, and he is still showing himself to be true. When we didn't even think there was a way, he has made a way, and he has provided. And because of all these things that I have seen, I know for a fact that he is there, and I know for a fact that he loves me and he is true. And I know that he wants to be true and come alive to you as well. And it just takes the step of believing, and I would love to share more with you. So wherever you are, know that you can contact me at sarah@sincerelyanchored.com. That's Sarah with an H, SARAH @sincerelyanchored.com. And I would love to talk to you more. Have a great day.